welcome to RezRootz. So today we're going to be doing a BookTok thing, not TikTok, but this is a BookTok, T-A-L-K, just so y'all know. So we have Jianna, we have Nova, or Synovia, I don't know what you want to call her, but call her one of those. But yeah, so we're going to talk about our top 3 books, whether we read them or we want to read them. So yeah. How do you guys feel? Book talk?
It's good.
They're shy.
So you got 2 introverted birch nerds on a talking show.
Okay.
So this is why we read books.
No, it's all right. Extroverts, this is for you. Stand strong. So we can just go in a circle, or we can do all of them. But I guess I'll do one first for y'all. I'll start not from my least favorite or to my most favorite, but I'm just going to show you what I'm reading now. And it's really good. I really like this book called Crying in H Mart. It's actually a memoir from, as you can see, Michelle Zauner. I don't know how to say her name. But she is a Japanese American citizen. So, yeah, it just talks about her mom and her relationship, and it's beautiful, just because it hits home, guys. It's sad. But it's really good. I like it because there's a lot of talking about grief, and there is a quote I want to give you guys. It was actually within the first couple pages, and yeah, it just says, "My grief comes in waves and is usually triggered by something arbitrary." So arbitrary meaning something small that you wouldn't think of. And I thought that was really cool because I really think that's how grief should be explained. So yeah, what do you guys have?
Go first.
Okay, well, I was going from the top of my stack, not in any particular order. This one, it's called The Green Angel. I don't know where you can see it. But yes, I read it when I was like 13 or 14, so edgy teen days. And I reread it multiple times, and I think I would still reread it because it's just good. I think it's considered fantasy, but it's really good. It's kind of about grief in a way, but in a like really weird and dystopian or fictional way. I don't know how to explain it. It's really weird. Like, you'd have to read it to understand how weird it is.
So if
but
you
it's
know,
really
you
good.
know.
Yeah, if you read it, which you should. This is also a book I've suggested to different friends. Like, you should read this book. It's really short. I mean, it's like...
How many pages is
it? She doesn't even name the pages, or number them. It's a short story. That's all you need to know. Oh, wait, no. There are numbers. That might have been that's the epilogue. Epilogue. There's 105 pages, so it's literally like you can read it in a day. But I like to take my time with it because it's just a really pretty story, and it's really sad, and it goes through her grief and her process in that grief, and it's just like a very poetic way of saying it. So it's like fantasy and poetry put together, and I think it's just really pretty. Yeah, it's a good story.
That was a good cover too.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's like dark and gloomy, but yes, it's good.
Nice. Nova.
All right, so this is the book I'm reading. Just look at it. Anywho, it's called Traces of Guilt by Dean Henderson. And yes, it's taken me a long time to finish reading this book. But I like it because it follows the main character called Evie. And she's a cold case solver. And I like how it goes throughout the book. It has her leaning on the Lord about how she can go about through kind of like a hard work environment, especially if you're trying to solve some murders. But it's also really good. It's encouraging, and I think it's just the first book of a saga, I think. I barely discovered because it's like, well, I'm reading and I'm like, dang, this is only the first book. It hasn't even concluded to what I'm thinking. So I think there might be more, but I have to do further investigation.
Nice. Cold case style.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it kind of cracks me up because it really has we'll put this thing on the wall. And I'm like, I don't think comics really do that, but okay. I just know there's a lot of paperwork involved.
Wow.
But yes.
Wow.
Right now, this is the one I am currently reading.
What is it called again?
Traces of Guilt.
Nice. Well, that's
Yes.
cool. All right, continuing on. So this is my second book, It is called In His Image, 10 Ways God Calls Us to Reflect His Character by Jen Wilkins. So I actually didn't get this book myself. It was a gift from one of my mentors I had. Her name is Carolyn Templin. So I don't know if she listens or not, but if she does, or if you know her and you listen, then you should tell her to listen to this. Because I got this book in 2020, and I was just going through a really hard time. There was just a lot of changes happening in my life, and yeah, I read this book, and it was really teaching me how to, I guess, react better. I wasn't reacting well with what happened in my life then. So yeah, it was great. And I didn't really understand it either, because in 2020, I was a very immature Christian. So I was rereading it, and it's actually really good. It just encourages you how to, again, reflect His image. And the way it does that is by telling us God's character traits. Like, there's 10 chapters. It says God most holy, loving, good, just, merciful, gracious, faithful, patient, truthful, and wise. So yeah, and it's really good. I suggest you all read it. It's a really good book. If you're struggling on if you feel like you cannot reach God's standard, you can, because He wouldn't call you to do it if it wasn't reachable. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yes. So spiritual. That's good. I like it. Okay, now it's my turn. Yes. So my next book it's called The Duel Under the Stars, and it's a memoir of it's called a Luftwaffe pilot, night pilot, and essentially in World War II, the German side, so it was a Nazi pilot, and he wrote his own memoir. But it's actually interesting going through it, because, like, I grabbed it at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, because at the time I really wanted to be a pilot, and I really love history, and I really love biographies, so it's kind of like a perfect combination of all three. So I grabbed it, and I didn't really realize what a Luftwaffe pilot was, but it does have a plane on the cover with their logo, or whatever, their symbol, I don't know, their flag, whatever you call it. The plane has it on there, so I should have known. But it's a really good story, because it gives a lot of interesting insight about, like, he was just a kid, really. He was, like, 17, 18 years old. And, like, as pilots, like, yeah, they were fighting planes, like American, European planes. And they're shooting them down in the nighttime. And that was, like, a very intense job, because it's night piloting back in the day. And you can't see, so it's pretty intense. So yeah, it goes through like that's funny. It goes through how, like, it actually works, and, like, how hard it was to actually spot the pilot or, like, the other planes, and then even, like, different stories of, like, when your plane was blown down, and if you happen to survive the landing, which was very rare, but if you did, like, sometimes the Nazi pilots or Luftwaffe pilots would go visit the American pilots, and it was just like having a cold beer with friends. It was really weird, because, like, in the sky they're enemies, but, like, down below they're just people fighting for their country. So it's really interesting. So good insight, even though it is about Nazis. I mean,
They did that, like, for I think a holiday. Maybe it was Christmas, but they played soccer. And they're just like, oh, yeah, you know what? We're friends right now, but tomorrow I'll probably kill you. So it's like, oh, my gosh.
yeah, I don't know. It kind of shows different insight in the relationships going on through war. So
yeah, that's sad. But it sounds like a different perspective.
Yes, which is perspective. So, beware. But it's not an enemy book. So, yeah, it's good. I liked it. Definitely a good suggestion.
Nice.
Yes.
So this one is another one that I enjoyed reading. It's called Shape. It is actually a book that's used for spiritual formation here at IBC. So what do they call it? It's an anagram?
I think so.
I think that's what it's called. Well, S stands for, what does S stand for? Oh, spiritual gifts, heart, attitude, personality, and experiences. So it's mainly about kind of how the Lord made people, or, the Lord did make people, but He gave us, we are uniquely made by Him, and how all the things come together to make us who we are. But mainly our purpose for life, because each of us has different spiritual gifts, and not every one of them is the same. And at the same time, with our heart, and that's kind of goes in touch with our calling about, like if our calling is toward Native people or missions across seas, stuff like that. And attitude is just basically your attitude. And personality, no, A is for attributes. No, abilities. I'm so sorry. A is for abilities. But yes, abilities like, what was it? Like if you're good at management or numbers or even just like simple serving people. So there's a whole list of them in there. Where is it? But anyway, it's in here. Of course, personality and experience is just things that you go through life. The main thing that I really got out of this book was kind of worthiness, because I really struggled with self-worth, and a bunch of problems came with that, but that's for another time. But it really helped me understand that, yes, the Lord took time out, kind of like his time, even though he's not bound by time, but, like he really put thought in creating who I am and for him, and also how he also did that for other people. So help me understand others a little more, in that it's okay that we're all different, even though sometimes we feel like we're the odd person out. We're the odd shape, but you're still a shape, which is good. And just how your shape can connect to the whole puzzle piece of everything. Yeah, so we're like our own little puzzle pieces. We're not one of them should be the same, but we all fit together.
The church.
Yes, the church as a whole. Yes, it's really cool. Yes, so I liked it. It is a good read.
Yes. And who's it by?
Oh, this one is by Eric Rees. Rees.
Eric.
Have you seen that, what's it called? Happy Feet 3, where he's an Eric. That little weird, what is
The
he?
bird?
Yeah, the poofin bird.
Yeah.
The puffin?
Puffin?
I don't know. I think it's puffin. I don't know. As you can tell, even though we read, it's hard for us.
So, and we're still not smarter.
That's funny. All right. So I have my last book, and talking about who God made us to be. This is a book called Transgender to Transformed, a story of transformation that will truly set you free, by Laura Perry. And this is her in the back. I don't know if you can see her, but yeah. So it's really cool. It's just kind of talking about how, like, her experience, her testimony, and just how she desired to be a man when God made her to be a woman. And she talks about the things that the media kind of doesn't talk about when it comes to trying to transition from woman to man. There's a lot of backfire in that, and yeah, she really talks about her own experience and honestly regret that she feels of trying to do that, because it has left a lot of medical problems on her side. But this is for people who do struggle with wanting to be the other gender. I personally do not struggle with that, just to make that clear. But I am a person who likes controversial topics, not because I want people to feel bad or to bring people down, just because I like to be ready. As a Christian, I think it's good to be knowledgeable about this stuff, because someone's going to try and talk to you and try to wiggle their way in and say, it's not a sin. What you're doing what I'm doing is right. And yeah, I want to be prepared. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I think through this book, it really showed me just how twisted Satan tries to ruin like everything God has made. One thing is about like fear. There's a healthy fear, and he twisted that, and it's just kind of going from only fearing the Lord, and now fear is associated with Satan when it should be. When it shouldn't be. It should not be associated with him. And one other thing was just discipline, I believe it was. I don't remember. It was something I read today, and it was really cool. It's for a class. But in this, Satan really attacks God's image in people. So if he created us to be so much like him, he's trying to mess with the person God made you to be. He's twisting your whole identity. So it's kind of trash. that Satan does that. But I think it's a good read, even if you don't struggle with that. It's still really good. It's powerful stuff.
How did you find that book? Like, what brought you to it?
So I actually went to a conference called Falls Creek in Oklahoma this summer. And I went to the women's conference thing. It's like a meeting every morning. So I got up, crack of dawn, just to go. And the only thing I got was this book. So they were giving out like books in the back. And that's where I found this. Wow. I was going to get the Case for Christ, but I thought this one was interesting. And I felt like the Lord was like, you know what? You should read this. I'm like, okay. I finished it in a day. Yes, it was all I ever did in my free time. So it's like 186 pages. And yeah, well, 91 if you read the acknowledgments. So yeah.
Nice.
Yes, I like it. Okay.
Okay.
Do we wait or do we keep going?
I think we can keep going. We don't need him.
All right.
Cut that out.
Please. Okay. Anyway, so my next book, and this particular book or copy was given to me by a friend, but I reread this book. It's called The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. We all know it.
I actually never read it.
Yeah,
I know everyone has read it, but it's, everyone knows about it most of the time. Unless you haven't, then that's okay, but it's a pretty common book. So yes, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. It's one book out of now 4, because now there's a prequel, and they're coming out with a movie, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. Anyway, so yes, it's one book that I read, I think when I was 12. Yeah, again, I don't know, I was really obsessed with reading at that point. I was like reading a book every week.
Queen Jianna.
Yes, preteen, edgy little Gianna. Just trying to be cool. I don't know how old I was. I think I was 12 or 13. That sounds about right. Anyway, I read it, and I read the whole series like at least 4 times, but this particular book I know for a fact I've read 4 times or more. I just really like the first book. And then, I don't know, the whole story, the sister dynamic that the main character, Katniss Everdeen, has with her little sister, Prim. Like, I always loved that, because I see myself like that with my little sisters, but then also me with my older sister, oddly enough. So yeah, it was just a really good story. I reread it a lot of times. This particular copy is very fancy. You don't normally see this. I don't know where my friend got it, but if you ever watch this, you know who you are, I think. Thank you. So yes, it's pretty. I like it on my bookshelf. It's just very satisfying because it sits and it's all gold and shiny. And it's like, yes. It's
So
like
what is it about?
Oh.
Just
We could go into that. Well, yes, the actual story is pretty fun. If you are not aware of what the story is like, or if you have not read the book or the movies, basically, it's a dystopian novel where it's like America way far off in the future, hopefully, though at this rate, could be in another 10, 20 years, so we don't know. Oh, just kidding. So yeah, it's like a dystopian novel, and about, America later on under a completely different government. It's kind of, I don't know what type of government you would consider it as, but it's pretty intense. Basically, the government is punishing the country for what happened over 75 years ago. If you're Hunger Game buffs and you're getting angry at me, I'm sorry. I don't know the time frame, but yes, anyway, they got mad at them. And essentially, now what they have to do are like the people under the government, what are they called? The citizens have to send in their kids, like 2 kids out of each district, and there's 12 districts, but there used to be 13, and it's a whole thing. And then they send in 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, into what's called the Hunger Games to fight each other, like kids against kids. So like, I think 12 years old, 10, 8. I don't know what the ages are. Anyway, they're young kids to like almost adults. And they have to fight each other and kill each other until there's only 1 remaining, and there's 24 people. Yeah, it's pretty...
So is that like the first book out of all of them?
Yeah, it's the first book.
Wow.
Yes.
I watched the movie. What are their names? the romance, the tropes, the pairs.
Yes, I
the
forgot
ships.
about the. There's this whole thing among the fans where it's like, it's not a love triangle, but then others like, it is a love triangle. So it's a whole thing. I don't know if you're on Tumblr. If you're one of those. It's the same. I was never on Tumblr. I was on Pinterest, which is almost the same thing sometimes. But yeah, so there's a love triangle between... So Katniss Everdeen, the main character, she volunteers in place of her little sister. And so she goes in the Hunger Games, but then this other boy, who she knows previously from history between them, kind of. Anyway, history between them. And Katniss Everdeen, is like, oh, that's the boy who saved me when I was 12 years old. There's like this whole thing, like, dang, now he's here. And so Katniss Everdeen and now Peeta Mellark go into the Hunger Games together, while Katniss Everdeen is really close to this one dude named Dale. Dale's all right. When you read, like, the third book, you're like, you kind of suck. But at first, he's all right. Anyway, Katniss and Dale used to go hunting together, and then, well, they still did. I don't know. That's suspicious. I know. So anyway, Katniss and Peeta, went to the Hunger Games. He was left behind, but Dale had always kind of shown interest. And then throughout the whole book, there's just a whole love triangle thing. I don't know.
I think I remember. I think I liked Peeta more. I'm like, yes, chivalry.
Yes. Now, in the books, you really, really like Peeta because it just shows more of his character. But in the movies, they don't always do great in the movies. So if you really, really love the movies, or if you only saw the movies, no judgment. But I personally loved Peeta in the books more, just because he was more. Yes, he was more developed. His character was there more. He was a man. He was good.
He's kind of wimpy, and I'm like, just grow up. Come on, you have so much potential.
Yeah. So you don't need Katniss.
Just be Paul, be single.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. That's a good book.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Good.
There's a lot going for it.
All right, so my last book, I think it's my favorite book of all time, besides the Bible. Just have to
right.
disclaimer. Actually, no. But this is my favorite book of all time. It's House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. I first found this book back when I was in junior high. My sister read it, and I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then I read it, and I think this is the one book I could not put down at all. So I was all in church, and I was reading it. I was like, yes. So put it between the hymnal book, and I was like, even during Sunday school, I remember I was just reading this. But it's really good. So it's not technically a Christian book, but I do think it has some... It's a great book for discussion of, like, ethics or... like theology almost, I guess. Along those lines. There's a certain word for it, but I don't remember what it is. But basically, it follows the main character who is a clone of this rich guy. And throughout, it kind of follows his life. And since he's a clone, he kind of struggles with if he was actually supposed to be on Earth and if he had a soul or not. So I thought that was very interesting. And of course, throughout the book, he has like a father figure, kind of like almost like a love interest, but they don't really expound upon that. She could, starts off as a sister, but as they grow a little older, she kind of becomes that almost love interest for him, but not too much. Of course, it's kind of like following him from when he was a baby to, I think, if I remember, like preteens. But it's really good. I like it because he kind of struggles with his purpose in life, and the reason why he was a clone, because this rich old man, who's like, I don't know, 150, if I remember, he basically made clones all throughout his life so he could take their organs and put it into his. And this clone specifically, he's going to take his heart. So he struggles with that, his identity, if he's really supposed to be on Earth, and if he could be saved, type of deal. So it's really good. I recommend it. And I just found out there's a prequel to this book. It's so good. The second book is called The Lord of Opium, but opium is actually the name of the land. Don't get it confused. But I really like it. And I just bought this because I've been on the look for this book forever. And I finally found it at Barnes & Noble's. And the lady was like, follow me. And I was like, okay. And I did. And she was like, actually, because it had a little crease in it. And I was like, I really want one that's not creased because I'm paying good money. I want it in pristine condition. And she was like, oh, I think we have another one. She was like, I'm sorry, that's the only one. But we do have this other one. And it was the prequel. And I was like, I'll take them both. I was like, charge me. So I bought it. Right. Yeah. So it's really good. I like it. And of course, it's it's a national book. It won 3 awards.
Wow.
That's how good it is.
Nice.
And yes, I like it. It's really good.
Wow. Well, guys, we're at the end. But I hope you liked our book selections. And yeah, if you have any questions, I don't know, comment, say something to us on the Instagram. Please be nice. Don't get mad.
Oh yeah, or share what your favorite book is so we can take a good read.
We like reading, so as you can tell, please give us some recommendations. And then yeah, so thanks for listening, and I hope y'all have a good time. So yeah,
Yes.
bye.
See ya.